Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're uncovering the true, fiercely independent legacy of Kasturba Gandhi. We're moving far beyond her assumed role as merely Mahatma Gandhi's wife, and we're stepping right into the extraordinary life of a woman who is a foundational pillar of India's freedom. So, ask yourself, when you hear the name Kasturba Gandhi, what exactly comes to mind? For decades, history books have kind of relegated her to the background, right? They paint her as this silent supporter in the shadow of a global icon. But is that actually the whole truth? Well, let's dive into this comparison. While the world often casts her as just a passive accessory, her actual identity tells a completely different story. She was a proactive architect of India's independence and a formidable social reformer in her own right. I mean, she spent considerable periods in prison, championed marginalized communities, and actively shaped the entire nationalist movement. Okay, part one, more than Gandhi's wife, early life and marriage. To really understand her incredible evolution, we've got to go all the way back to the beginning in 19th century Gujarat, within a highly traditional patriarchal society. Born in Porbandar on April 11, 1869, to a merchant family, she grew up with very limited formal schooling, which was unfortunately pretty common for girls at the time. And get this, she was only 13 or 14 years old when she entered an arranged marriage with Mohandas Gandhi in 1883. Now, as you might guess, their early marriage was fraught with friction. A young Mohandas was pretty possessive, kind of manipulative actually, and he expected this ideal, highly traditional wife who would just follow his every command without question. But Kasturba? Yeah, she was absolutely not one to simply bow her head. Just look at Gandhi's own written words here. They reveal her fierce resistance. He literally called her obstinate. Why? Because Kasturba refused to simply follow him unquestioningly. She frequently challenged his strict lifestyle and decisions, particularly when it came to their household and children. It actually took years for their relationship to evolve from a traditional, often strained dynamic into a deep partnership of shared sacrifice. Moving on to part two, the South African Awakening. This is the era where Kasturba truly begins to step into her own political identity and power. When we track her timeline, you can see her geographical move was also a profound political one. Her time in South Africa in the 1890s and early 1900s was the absolute crucible that forged her political consciousness. Moving away from the traditional structures of Gujarat gave her the crucial space she needed to evolve into a public leader. Living in experimental communal living spaces, like the Phoenix settlement near Durban and later the Tolstoy farm near Johannesburg, Kasturba actively participated in heavy daily labor. And this wasn't just physical work, it was a philosophy in action. It deeply embedded a lifelong commitment to self-reliance, equality, and community service into her activism. And her commitment was seriously put to the test in 1913. That year, she took a massive, independent step by joining protests against discriminatory laws affecting Indian immigrants in South Africa. This was a huge, defining moment, leading to her arrest and imprisonment with hard labor. She willingly sacrificed her physical liberty for a cause she fundamentally believed in. But even while imprisoned, her leadership just shone brilliantly through. Instead of breaking down, she led the other women in prayer and actively encouraged educated inmates to teach the uneducated women how to read and write. She was literally turning a place of punishment into a place of empowerment. Which brings us to part three, leading India's freedom struggle. Returning to her home country in 1915, she absolutely refused to just support the movement from the sidelines. Instead, she became known affectionately and respectfully as Ba, the mother of the movement. She became a vital champion of satyagraha, that organized, peaceful action used to challenge injustice. She led by example in communal ashrams, places like Champaran, where she taught women hygiene and reading, and in Borsod, where she led nonviolent resistance. And she did all of this, by the way, while battling severe chronic bronchitis. So the crucial takeaway here is that whenever Gandhi was imprisoned, which, let's be honest, was often, Kasturba fearlessly stepped right in. She didn't pause the movement. She maintained those communal ashram activities, she addressed the groups and protests, she kept the nationalist networks alive, and she repeatedly defied colonial restrictions. She was sharing the exact same risks as the other frontline freedom fighters. Let's dive into part four, a philosophy of action. Unlike her husband's highly theoretical and deeply philosophical approach, Kasturba's leadership was entirely grounded in pragmatic, everyday action. She was all about doing the actual work. A perfect example of this is khadi. She heavily promoted this ham-spun cotton among women. But she didn't just frame the simple act of spinning cotton as making clothing. She framed it as a radical declaration of economic independence, the dignity of labor, and a direct resistance to British economic exploitation. Kasturba became this transformative role model for women who had previously remained completely outside of politics. By encouraging them to boycott foreign goods, participate in peaceful protests, and pursue literacy, she was proving day in and day out that women could, and absolutely should, take an active role in shaping the nation. She fundamentally believed that true national progress didn't start with grand political declarations and halls of power. It began at home. She championed responsible everyday habits, promoting sanitation, and relentlessly fighting social discrimination and untouchability to ensure every single human being was treated with equal respect. Finally, Part 5, Final Sacrifice and Legacy. The twilight of her life wasn't marked by a comfortable retirement, but by her ultimate personal sacrifice for India's freedom. Despite her advanced age and rapidly declining health, Kasturba continued to speak out and protest during the massive 1942 Quit India movement. The British authorities responded by arresting her and detaining her at the Aga Khan Palace in Pune. Tragically, her health deteriorated severely in prison. She suffered 2 heart attacks, complicated by pneumonia and her chronic bronchitis. When doctors determined that penicillin wouldn't save her failing kidneys, she passed away in detention on February 22, 1944, at the age of 74. She gave her final breath while literally still a prisoner of the empire she fought so hard to peacefully dismantle. Her legacy goes far beyond just being a wife. It's a legacy of quiet leadership, fierce courage, and unyielding service. I want to leave you with this final thought from today's explainer. If Kasturba Gandhi showed us that everyday habits and quiet courage literally build a nation, what actions are you taking today to shape your own community? Think about that for a second. Thanks for learning with me today, and keep exploring.